Hi Brixton, it's great to see everyone. My name's Paul Reid, I'm the Director of the Black Cultural Archives. I think I've got a little bit longer than 2 minutes, but I'll try to keep it very brief. I'd like to combine a little bit about myself and the project, Black Cultural Archives. Don't have long, so let's really go for it. I was born in Brixton, 1963. And my mother and father had a shop on Railton Road, a West Indian, it was called at the time a West Indian takeaway. And this was during the 70s when Brixton was, let's say, just a bit different than it is today. And you can all very much reflect on 1981 and 1983 where things all kicked off and it all gets very interesting. But I was part of all of that, and I went to a local primary school. I also went to a local secondary school, Hillmead and Beaufoy in Kennington. And interesting times. At school, at secondary school, my very first day, I ended up getting caned. I got caned for fighting in the playground. I thought I was playing with a friend, but I got caned. And 3 of the best. And that taught me not to get caught. A bit later on, I think it was in the 3rd year, was it year 9 or so, I got caned again, but this time it was in history. And it was very interesting because the history teacher was teaching us about the wonderful exploits of Christopher Columbus. And I was really trying to be bright this day. It wasn't a day of being cheeky, it wasn't, honest. And so the hand went up, and I was to recite this thing, Christopher Columbus discovered America. So I said, "Sir, was there anyone else there when he turned up?" Not a good question. This was the second caning of my school career. But I was really trying to kind of engage with it. This wasn't easy for me. I was asking quite complex and quite interesting questions, even as a child, really even as a child. A bit further on, I remember the biology class, and we had a wonderful teacher, Mr. Wilson, and you could smoke as a teacher at them days. So in the science lab, he used to smoke, and he used to start with one cigarette, and it never used to come out of his mouth, and it used to kind of flick around all day long until it finished, and there was a kind of a trail of ash down the tweed jacket, and it was there, and it was always there. I don't know what happened, but it was always there, and he got all the attention, particularly the black boys, because we was like this, trying to work out what was happening to the cigarette, really, rather than the lesson as a whole. But I got particularly interested in biology, particularly genetics. I was interested in what happened when the white mouse and the black mouse kind of got together. And like brown mice, right? Okay. But then I kind of made the leap and I was saying, well, actually, with cows and dogs, you don't really get that because sometimes you get like black dogs with white spots. And so why don't that happen with people? So I was processing these questions. I heard about dominant and recessive genes and that kind of stuff. I thought, wow, this is interesting. I wasn't quite getting to the point of what I was trying to articulate or work through, but I was working through these ideas very much as a child, Then I came across Mr. Cornell. Mr. Cornell was a black teacher. He was fantastic. I loved Mr. Cornell. He had this face that he'd never really smiled at any time at all. Right? He was a disciplinarian, West Indian man, Jamaican man, and he spent time with us. So when we did get detention, he'd come over to the black boys, and he'd say, "Listen, this ain't easy, and this education is no joke. So you guys, you've got to get serious. Otherwise, this is what's likely to happen." And Mr. Cornell was fantastic because he would actually try and speak directly to us as young black men, let's say, in school. And Mr. Cornell said to us, "What do you think you are?" And I said, "Well, I'm very good at basketball. I'm very good at running, high jump, all these types of things." And he said, "No." He said, "Reid, you're a scientist. I see what you're doing with these mathematics. I see what you're about. you're a scientist. And I thought, nah, I don't know anybody who's a scientist. Nonsense. Right? But he told me I was a scientist. This black teacher told me that I was a scientist. I knew nothing about science. Well, I didn't think so anyway. Anyway, the long and the short of all of this is that we're playing through these ideas, aren't we, as children in this kind of social context. At Beaufoy, we really had to fight to survive. And so it wasn't, you wasn't cool to be smart and those types of things. And I think it's really interesting that children do work through these ideas very much as a child. And I think these are like the early building blocks for me when I think about my work at the Black Cultural Archives. Because, okay, Christopher Columbus didn't discover America for those that was already there. But what I was actually trying to do at that point in time, I was trying to work out my place in this society. Yeah? My place in this society. And I get to find out a bit later. I mean, it's interesting because one of the first things I did at the Black Cultural Archives was organise a group of historians and academics to look at black presence in Britain. And I came across some fantastic things that you didn't get to know at school. For example, I don't know how many people know this. Did you know that during the Roman exploits of Britain in 43 AD, or whatever it was, and during that period shortly after, Septimus Severus comes over from Libya, helps strengthen Hadrian's Wall, goes off to Scotland, causes all sorts of hell. An African emperor, Roman emperor, did we know that? Didn't know that. And actually, throughout the whole course of history, black people have always been in Britain. Always been in Britain, throughout all of those periods as we go back through time. Not just about enslavement, by the way, or the Windrush, but actually throughout the whole period of time, you will always find black presence in Britain. Fascinating, fascinating. If my history teacher, I won't mention his name just in case libel and that kind of stuff, but if my history teacher had told me or told us that we were always here, not necessarily just passing through or on the back end of some colonial story, I might have had a different idea around belonging. I might have had a different idea about what was possible. I might have seen examples of myself in history to aspire to, as opposed to the types of things that we're bombarded by on a day-to-day basis by a sensational press and a whole range of industries that are exploiting us daily, intellectually and all sorts of things, certainly financially. And so I think this all takes us to the work of the Black Cultural Archives, to collect, preserve and celebrate the history of black people in Britain, to make that interesting for everyone and accessible to everyone, how all these stories all connect and how we have the key conversations. I think that's really, really important. And I think what we're going to do something quite interesting. We're actually not just collecting documents or collecting the history. We're equally matching our resources on the collection side with our resources on learning and interpretation and exhibition and that kind of stuff. So we have a fantastic learning team, and that learning team is animating the history. It's taking it into schools. It's looking at Key Stage 2, 3 and 4 and all that type of stuff, trying to find access points into curriculum, both formal and informal learning, and fantastic exhibition. And we'll have a cafe, reading room, archive space, library. It's going to be great. I think we're going to draw upon those experiences that we've had in the past, learn from those experiences, and create an altogether completely different offer. And if we do that, we may well make history, we may well bring about something transformational and important for us all. Thank you very much.